What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. It's LVO weekend, and a lot of exciting streams going on today. But it looks like at the event we got some peeks a week ahead of time of the new Dark Angels Codex. We've only gotten preview articles so far on Warhammer Community, so we haven't seen too much of the Codex. But we just got what is, I think, all of the pages, or at least most of them. And so we're just going to do a little run through of them today, which I'm kind of excited about. So thanks everyone for coming and hanging out. We should be, just as a little bit of an announcement, we'll be live later of the weekend. We have a T5S2 pod finals tomorrow, and I will be live doing some sort of watch party streaming of the LVO coverage, both on the Warhammer channel and on Wargames Live. So if you want to come hang out with me with that, it's going to be over on Twitch on the Purple channel. So please, come hang out. We'll probably intermix that with the T5S2 coverage and with anything else that we got going on Saturday and Sunday. So as the event sort of rolls out, we'll be over there. But right now, we're talking about Dark Angels. So that's what's going on over here. And it just seems like it's it's pretty controversial. Because we already saw in the Warhammer community that some of the stuff in the Codex is getting a lot worse than it was from the index. And I'm actually going to pull my index file up here so that I can compare the data sheets to the old ones. Because I've only taken a cursory look at this, so I don't know what all of the changes are. Let me grab it real quick. All right, sweet. All right, everybody. Should we dive in? So we have some army rolls. It sounds like we are getting... I don't think any of these mechanics have changed. You get out the moment if you're a Dark Angels army. You have a second faction keyword. It's Dark Angels. You can't include other faction keywords, kind of normal stuff. So there's no additional rules besides, I guess, the Ravenwing and Deathwing stuff. Mounted units and flying vehicles gain Ravenwing, so Storm Speeders and Outriders. I guess Deathwing, Terminator units, Blade Guard veterans, Vanguard veterans, and Stern Guard veterans. Land Raiders, Land Raider Crusader, Redeemer, Repulsor, Executioners, and Dreadnoughts all gain Deathwing automatically. So you don't have to, unlike the previous version, you have to pay for the ability. But I guess it doesn't give you an ability, it just lets you interact with other stuff. Let's jump into some detachments. So the Inner Circle one, I think, is the one that we've seen the least of. We saw a little bit of a preview of the Hunter one from Ravenwing. So let's look at the Deathwing friends. You get +1 to wound on somebody within range of a vowed objective marker, which you choose each command phase of each of your command phases. Start of your command phase, so it's before standard command phase stuff happens, but it should be after you after you draw your cards, I believe, for tactical objectives. Is that timing correct? It should be. I believe tacticals go start of your turn, so it's automatically first. Which is an important thing to know because you are choosing for objectives. Let me see if I can grab the rule. I don't know where the timing is here. I assume it's after card draws. Why is it so hard to read the Leviathan packet? Yeah, okay, start of each player's command phase. So it's a simultaneous effect, so you'll just choose to choose your objective marker after you draw your secondaries. So then if you have, like, a secure no man's land or kill somebody on an objective or whatever, you can just pick the objective that you want to be taking to get +1 to wound on. Now, it only affects Deathwing infantry. That interestingly is all attacks, not just melee. So it affects Stern Guard veterans and Deathwing, like ranged Deathwing or ranged Terminator squads. So that's actually kind of sick. I'm gonna be honest. Champion of the Deathwing gives you lethal hits when you get a 5+ critical hit on somebody against on your vowed objective marker. That seems fine. I hope that one's not too expensive. The fact that it's only the Deathwing guy himself, if it was lethal hits to the unit, maybe they don't want to do that anymore. But if it was lethal hits to the unit, that would be super strong. Eye of the Unseen gives you a stratagem or a CP back on a 5+ only if it's in range of your objective marker. Oh, adding 1 if it's in range of your objective marker. So the interesting thing about that is that it doesn't require you to have spent CP on these objectives, on the stratagem. So if you put it on a captain, for example, and then use Rites of Battle, you're still using a stratagem on that unit. So you actually get multiple chances to unlock that CP. Now, to be fair, though, you're probably taking Azrael in this army, right? So, like, I don't know how often that's actually going to come up, because most of the time you're gaining CP automatically anyway. But I guess it's maybe okay. Like, it'll net you, maybe 2 or 3 CP or whatever over the course of a battle, if you are using that Rites of Battle consistently. So hopefully it's cheap. Singular Will is an additional 3 inches in Pylon or Consolidate. That's always pretty good, especially for Terminator units. So that's solid. And then Deathwing Assault gets you a first turn deep strike regardless of mission rules. Sick. Very good. All right. Good stuff. It's a first for the fray wording, though. It doesn't count the battle round as one earlier, so you can't rapid ingress with it. You can only come in your own movement phase, because it does say your movement phase. So it's out of phase in your opponent's movement phase, unfortunately. So that's an important thing to consider. Unlike, or I think they have an identical one in the Ravenwing detachment, but it's the other wording. It's the you count the battle round as one earlier for the purposes of strategic reserve, which means it doesn't have a timing, whereas the Deathwing Assault is locked to your movement phase. So that's a little bit unfortunate for Deathwing. If Champion of the Deathwing was a melee version of Fire Discipline, it would be great. Yeah, it'd be really good. Like, unironically, it would be super strong. If you got 5+ lethal hits on an entire unit, even if it just gave him lethal hits, even if it was just melee attacks and it affected your whole unit, like, that would honestly be really good, too. Because then you could take, like, all those... Like, there's that new Deathwing Knight weapon that's like a 5-attack power sword, right? And you're just like, here we go. Here's, like, here's 50 attacks, and most of them lethal. But that's not how it works. It's a little bit unfortunate. You get Armor of Contempt, which is nice. Reroll wound rolls of 1 in the fight phase. Full rerolls if you are in range of the vowed objective marker. If your unit is in range of the vowed objective marker, not the enemy unit. It's probably not like a big deal, but there are going to be situations where you charge onto the unit on an objective marker and don't yourself touch it. Just because of how the basing has to work. Which could be problematic. But still, like, situational full wound rerolls is really good. And you're also +1 to wound if you're attacking a unit on that objective, which you probably are. So, you're, like, the damage output is kind of insane. That +1 to wound, like, you gotta remember, that's it's relatively situational. I don't want to say it's very situational, but, like, you're just gonna choose whichever objective marker the thing you want to kill that turn is touching. And then that's going to be the thing that you attack. So, like I would say 40% of the time, your army's +1 to wound in this detachment, which is really good. And there is they previewed. Did they not preview something that gave you 2 vowed objective markers? They didn't, right? Am I thinking of something else? Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, I don't know. Duty unto Death gives you a 1 CP 4+ fight on death. It goes to a 3+ if you're touching the vowed objective marker. Seems fine. Relic Teleportarium. Oh, you got a 3-inch deep strike. It is your movement phase, so you can't use it with Rapid Ingress, which is sad. But you can do it turn 1 if you have the enhancement. Ooh, that's a spicy. So you can drop like 10 Terminators or something, like in the middle of the table. Like top or bottom of one, and then just like have them like super annoy everyone. But that's actually kind of sick. We don't have any uppy downies though, right? There's no way to uppy downy those guys unless you have a strat. Sad. 40% of the time, it's 100% of the time. Yeah. Yeah, you can't charge afterwards, but the point is that you can like use it to. I mean, you can use it to. It's Deathwing units from your army. It's only deep strike, so it's basically just Terminators. You could use it on like the Terminator squads that have banners in them that are high OC to steal objectives away. But I think most of the time, what it's going to be used for is just like deploying yourself in a really obnoxious position, where you're in a position to charge in a future turn, or your opponent like can't really get to you. I think you use it early on in the game when you're to just put yourself in a really good spot rather than like move ground pound and then get shot to death. Wrath of the Lion. It gives you Hammer of Wrath for a CP. That's pretty good. And that's any Deathwing infantry, so you can use it on. You can. Oh man, you can double up. It doesn't work on Assault Intercessors though, right? Because they're not Deathwings. It's just Vanguard veterans. So you can't double up on Hammer of Wraths, but I mean a tank shock is always good, right? So, and it's a tank shock with extra bonuses because you get +1 on your Vowed objective, but it is a maximum of 3 mortals. Ugh. Alright, mediocre. The 3 mortal units kind of bones it. Why is there a cap? That's so weird. Like 5? Sure. Right? Because in 5 you're like, alright, we can kill a 5-man, like, idiot squad who's trying to body block us, but 3 doesn't actually kill anyone. It's a little annoying. I mean, it's going to be useful, but it is what it is. Unmatched Fortitude, your opponent's shooting phase. Deathwing infantry unit from your army gets little transhuman. Little baby transhuman. So the -1 to wound if your opponent's strength is higher than your toughness. It's a battle tactic, so you can duplicate it, and you can use it for free with Rites of Battle. That's a pretty good strat. And you can stack it with Armor of Contempt. Alright. I like that. That's a good strat. Solid strat. I would say this is kind of a mediocre brace or a handful of strats here. Fight on Death, like it's all kind of nice to have, but I don't know if it's particularly game ending. Like mortal wounds on the charge, like sometimes you got a thing and it's like on 2 wounds and you just want to kill it, so you just roll the mortal wounds. Or Armor of Contempt is always good. This is really good. Like probably basically -1 to wound and shooting. Against the big stuff. And a 3-inch deep strike is good. The rerolls are situational. It is a little bit funny that it's like reroll 1s. A lot of times you're going to be getting reroll 1s from like a lieutenant anyway, from the combi lieutenant, if you're taking him. If you're already attacking your bout objective markers. There's like kind of some anti-synergy there, it feels like. The max of 3, yeah, that's kind of stupid. I don't know why it does that. I don't know why they would cap it. That's very silly. Let's talk about the Company of Hunters. So this is the one. This is the other one that we got previewed over on Warhammer Community. You get shoot, and if you advance or fall back, which is good. And Outrider gains battle line. So you can take 6 Outrider units. Whoa, let's go. It's funny that Stormlance doesn't do that, right? Like, what? Why wouldn't it? You're basically only capped to like 3 mounted units anyway in that list. Unless you take like singleton invader ATVs. A mastercrafted weapon gives you precision. Are Talon Masters in this index, chat? I sort of... I guess we could look. I sort of assumed that they would be Goops. Assumed that they would be getting squatted. So you can take a look. See, those are lens speeders. Black Knights. All the special characters. Okay, it doesn't look like they're in here. That sort of feels like it was kind of built for Talon Masters, but I don't see them in this index. I don't know if anybody can confirm or deny whether or not they're in the index. Or in the Codex, I should say. Yeah, I deleted. As sad as that is for Dark Angels players, like, my heart goes out to you. I don't feel bad, though. That unit looked bad, was old, was a model kit you couldn't purchase, and was mechanically very obnoxious. So, I don't know. I apologize. Alright. But, yeah, precision is a bad keyword. Oh, it's melee weapons only, actually. Who gives a shit? What? If you need that, you'll just pay a fucking CP for it. What a bad enhancement. Alright. Hopefully that's like 5 points. Jesus Christ. Why is it Ravenwing only? What are you going to put that on? What's a Ravenwing model that you're going to be excited to attack with in melee? A chaplain? Like, literally just a chaplain? Alright. That's stupid. Mounted stratagem, you can fall back and charge. Oh, you can advance and charge! Oh, that's good! That's a good strat right there. That's a good enhancement right there. Alright, we're back in it. Real bad, real good. Let's go. The whiplash is real. What a roller coaster ride of emotions. Master of Maneuver is the one that we saw in the Warhammer community article. You get to treat the battle round as one higher when setting up from strategic reserves. Love it. And then Recon Hunter gives you 9-inch scout. Dude! Whoa! Alright, these enhancements rule. What the fuck? Okay. Those are very good. Let's grab some. Can we see some stratagems? Give me some strats. Give me those strats. This is. Here it is. I mean, zoom. Oh my god, what happened? I can't zoom on the picture. What is going on right now? Sorry, chat. What have I done? Okay, here we go. That's weird. Hunter's Trail. Mounted unit that is in range of an objective marker you control in any command phase. Let's go, dude! Remains under your control even if you have no models within range of it, so you obsec an objective with a mounted unit. Dude! Oh my god, that's a good strat. Armor of Contempt, normal stuff. Talon Strike. Ravenwing mounted unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight that phase. You get +1 to wound infantry or characters. Infantry or mounted characters. Yeah, that's a good stratagem. It would be good if it was any character. Or if it had a way to affect vehicles and monsters. But +1 to wound infantry characters, like mounted characters, like I guess it's okay. Like Rex Thunderwolf Cavalry, I guess. Infantry characters is like actually functionally very meaningful because most of the big bricks that you want to super duper like turbo nuke are going to have infantry characters attached to them. So that's just 1 CP +1 to wound. Strategic ploy is a little sad, so you can't duplicate it because it's not a battle tactic. What if we see that change? What if we go through this whole thing and talk about how good the battle tactics are, and then we see that change in the data slate update like next week or whatever? I would love that, honestly. Please give me better stratagem economy. Running White Scars is Ravenwing from now on? Yeah, it kind of feels like that, right? Like, everybody just, like, they paint their white armor black. For sure. Let's see. Death on the Wind. One enemy unit hit by 1 or more attacks from a Ravenwing unit that just shot must take a battle shock check. You get -1 if there are people within 6. Who cares? Oh my Jesus Christ. That's going to be useful in 1 out of a million games. And the 1 out of a million games, it's going to win you the game, and you're going to be so happy you remembered it. And in every other game, it's going to be just worthless garbage. High-speed focus. Like, it doesn't do anything if you get battle shocked. You just are battle shocked. Okay. Out-of-phase battle shock for 1 CP that you still have to test for. If it automatically battle shocks, like, we might be talking. You have to test for it. What the fuck? That's bad. That's a bad strat. High-speed focus. You get -1 for the hits. If you are a Ravenwing unit in the shooting phase, this seems fine. Rapid reappraisal. End of your opponent's fight phase. 1 Ravenwing unit from your net with engagement range goes to strategic reserve. Dude, we got uppy downies and locked objectives? Oh my god! This detachment rules. Now, the question is, are the Ravenwing stuff good? That's the real question. But, these 2 stratagems are good. These 2 stratagems are... Or these 3 stratagems are okay. This stratagem sucks, but who cares? Everybody gets 1 super bad one. Alright, so let's look at the... Ravenwing units real quick. Is this going to let me zoom? Okay, for some reason now it lets me zoom. So here's the Dark Shroud and the Vengeance. Dark Shroud gives stealth within 6, and you get benefit of cover against ranged attacks. Love it. You can replace your heavy bolter with an assault cannon. Oh, just do that, right? I guess it's they're like kind of the same weapon, honestly. But if there's only a singleton, I wish it was twin linked. The damage output from this guy is really sad, but the ore is good. Well, we also don't know final points on them, too, because apparently a lot of the points are going to be changing, as we saw with the changes to the Deathwing Knights. Land Speeder Venganza over here. D6 +1 blast, plasma storm shots. Was this always supercharged to 2? Now we look at the at the old index and see where they were previously. Land Speeder Vengeance. Yeah, used to supercharge to 3 damage. Oh, no. That's not as good. Ooh, that's a sad change right there. Yikes. Once per turn in your opponent's shooting phase, another Adeptus Astartes unit within 6 of this model is destroyed. 1 model can use this ability. It cannot use it itself if it is destroyed. Yeah. I think they got rid of the clause that says you cannot use it when it itself is destroyed, but I don't think that's relevant because you're not you don't have line of sight to anything if you're off the battlefield because you're dead. Like, I don't think that there's any argument that you can you could be destroyed and then use your own ability. The ability is still active, but the opponent's is not an eligible target if you're not on the table. So that would be a little silly. That damage nerf though, that's a big deal. Yikes. Hopefully these guys are cheap. It feels like if they're cheap, they're probably still fine. But if they're like, it's still a pretty solid stat line. Like mid strength, high AP, twin linked is all good, but at 2 damage, you're like, well, 3 damage. You're like, all right, we're good at heavy infantry. We're heavy infantry like lawnmowers, and then we're also can shoot vehicles, fine. But at like a T8 10 wound model, you're not really survivable enough to get into a gunfight with somebody. So you're hoping to like blitz them and kill them, and at 2 damage, I don't know what you're blitzing and killing. That's not like an aggressor. All right, this is the Black Knight squad. Yeah, it says Ravenwing Black Knight, so I'm gonna assume that that's what this is. No, it won't zoom again. What is my photo app doing, Jeff? What have we done to deserve this treatment? Okay, yeah, here it is better. I don't know what's going on. Ravenwing Black Knights still get a Plasma Talon, which is a solid profile. I was kind of hoping, I guess like 2 shots is good. 1 shot twin linked would also have been acceptable, I guess. Each time the unit is selected to fight. If it made a charge move, it gets anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4. But they're only 1 damage weapons. I guess it affects all of your characters though, so that's where the actual damage is going to come from. And you can be attaching if it's a character with the leader ability can be attached to an outrider squad, it can attach here instead. So you can attach chaplains to the unit too. What does the current chaplain datasheet look like? Do they still have the devastating wounds aura? Or did they get rid of that? I feel like that went away. Or maybe, no, it didn't go away. It's just that they lost their cool access to grab guns, which was like the cool combo. Where, yeah, chaplain. So you can get +1 to wound, which doesn't really matter if you have anti-monster, anti-vehicle, because those two things don't work really well with each other. So whatever. But you do get the devastating wounds thing. Okay. I mean, devastating wounds is solid. We don't have any access to wound rerolls though, right? So it feels like this is baked around the outrider gun, because the outrider guns are all twin linked. So you're rerolling wounds and trying to fish for devastating. So that's not quite as exciting. And we don't have any... I guess you could shoot, like, blast weapons? But you'd rather as well just shoot 2 plasma talons at people, right? I feel like that's the way to be. That's the thing to do. Didn't see Ravenwing command squads in the leaked photos? Maybe I don't have them. Oh yeah, where'd they go? Well, that's meaningful, because if the data sheet for those guys is super sweet, like, I mean, we know that you can make basically like a 10-man squad, right? If you add all of the Ravenwing guys. I guess the question for me is whether or not the command squad can also attach alongside another character, because it feels like thematically they should be able to. And if you can make like a big 11-man brick and like supercharge them with all the buffs, I feel like that's actually good. But we'll see. Also, what the Ravenwing command squad can attach to would be interesting to see too, because somebody was pointing out that if they have the attachment, if they have the leader into outrider squads, you actually get like kind of some silly interactions. Assuming their apothecaries work the same, because if their apothecary can revive units back into the squad, you can be like, hey, we're bringing ATVs and stuff back, and that's really cool. So we'll see how it works. Let's look at Samael. So, oh wow. So Samael also grants you the ability to advance, shoot, and charge. And then you also get fallback shoot. Thanks to the detachment ability, assuming you're playing Ravenwing. Did he originally do that? He did. He looks functionally identical, actually. I don't think anything changed. Each time an enemy unit within engagement range is selected to fall back, models in the unit will stick a desperate escape. And you are -1 from each desperate escape. So you die on a 1, 2, or 3. Oh, if you're also battle shocked, you get -1. Okay, that makes sense. A lot of people think that's how it works if you take a desperate escape while battle shocked. It's actually not. The desperate escape doesn't have any different mechanics if you're battle shocked. It just forces you to take the test. Is his sword the same? Sustain 2. Yeah, strength 6, AP 3, 2 damage. Sustain 2 is such a weird profile. Anyway, so you can get 2 units, right, that can advance and do anything, which is a lot. So there you go. That's pretty good. What does he lead? Oh yeah, can be attached to Outriders and Ravenwing Black Knights. I guess he gets anti-monster, anti-vehicle if he's in the Black Knight squad. So he's sustained 2 wounding on 4s, like against most of the big targets in the game at AP3-2 damage. So that's actually like pretty legit. Especially if it's the Oath target, you're just gonna reroll for sustains. So you probably get like 9 hits out of that weapon, most likely. And wounding on 4s means he's good for like between 6 and 10 damage, which is pretty good into most monsters' vehicles in the game. Unless they're super high armor save and have armor contempt and stuff. Alright, Samael. That's not too bad. And then the rest of the unit also contributes a little bit too. How did there not been any new bike characters in this release? It's so, yeah. Some people are saying like they were kind of expecting in the LVO preview to get either a new Ravenwing character or like a Primaris Talonmaster that was in a Stormspeeder or something. And like, where is that? like, why are all of the releases for like Inner Circle stuff? Like, give us some bikes and stuff. It's also weird, like, we didn't... I guess they would have... If they had new bike characters, they would have put them in the Space Marine Codex, but, like, we need a bike captain or a bike, like, you know, Huntmaster or something random, right? We need something that can attach to these units and give additional buffs. If we had a lieutenant on a bike, like, suddenly I think that can attach alongside a chaplain or alongside something else, like, wow, we're cooking with gas now. So, yeah... I don't know. It's just kind of funny. Is there anything good in this codex? I mean, I think this Ravenwing army looks unironically pretty cool. Like, you have to remember, too, that the entire army doesn't have to be Ravenwing. Like, your front line can be Ravenwing, and then you can backline it with all the good Space Marine stuff, right? Like, you still have Inceptors. You still have, you know, Gladiator Lancers and Whirlwinds and all that stuff. And the front line of your army is, like massive, like, turn 1 rapid ingressing, like, Deathwing Knight squads and advancing and charging Deathwing Knight squads that move 1,000,000 inches. So I think that... I think this detachment's legit. And then you also, like, you get objective locking, you get uppy downies with these units, you get battle line outriders. Like, I'm kind of into it. I think the Ravenwing list is cool. Alright, let's take a quick look at Unforgiven. Do we get all of the rules for that? Yeah. God, this is so annoying. I don't know what's wrong with this. I'm just gonna restart my app here. What's up, chat? Hey, how we doing? I'm gonna close all my windows and then open them again. Clearly not working out. It only situationally lets me zoom in. All right, we are looking at Unforgiven. So we get Grin Resolve, which... Okay. I don't know what's going on. Which is the same. Let's see if the enhancements have changed at all. They said that the task force is coming back, but we have seen some changes in the other detachments as they have re-released as well. So the Shroud of Heroes, you come back with 3 wounds remaining. You get extra wounds if you're battle shocked. Normal stuff. Stubborn Tenacity, you get +1 to hit for your unit if it's below starting strength, +1 to wound if you're also battle shocked. Whatever. The Heavenfall Blade has been replaced with Weapons of the First Legion, but it looks like it's the same. +1 attack, strength, and damage, while your battle shock +2 each instead. I mean, +1 attack, strength, and damage is like legitimately good weapon upgrade, so you can't be too upset about that. Even if you don't get the battle shock bonus as well, you're fine. And then the Feel No Pain one from the Pennant of Remembrance. Yeah, those are all the same. Oh, this changed to Ancient only instead of, I guess, Blade Guard and Primaris Ancient. Yeah, I guess that's just the change to the keywords that the models have. And the stratagems look mostly the same. We still have Armor of Contempt. Unforgiven Fury is lethal hits, and you get 5+ criticals if you're battle shocked. Yep. Intractable. You can fall back and do whatever you want. I wish they would template this though, because they're all used at different times. This one's movement phase after you fall back, but some of them are like during the charge phase or whatever, like during the shooting phase. You can do stuff if you have fallen back. I wish it was just like one or the other. Like you could use it in the shooting phase and it would affect you until the end of the turn, but you didn't have to decide immediately. Because that, like, I think giving players more choice and more options to use the strat is good. Although it's easier to remember when you do it, if you do it when you move. Fire Discipline, you get Assault Heavy and Ignore Cover. Grim Retribution, you lose a dude and you can shoot back. Yeah, that's the same. Yep. And then Unbreakable Lines, you get... now Unbreakable Lines did change, yeah. So it used to be -1 damage. I guess the problematic part is you could stack that with Deathwing Knights, right? And it went to 2 CP. Ugh. It used to be 1 CP -1 damage against a charging enemy. Now it's 2 CP -1 to wound. -1 to wound is situationally better, but... I don't know. I guess it's better on like vehicles. You're kind of excited to be like to have a Land Raider be -1 to wound. But 2 CP is like a lot. Yeah, I don't know if I'm into Unforgiven Task Force. This feels like it was kind of a side grade at worst, or a side grade at best, but kind of a downgrade. And this was already a really like awkward detachment to use. Like there should be, when your whole deal is being battle shocked, you should have outlets to battle shock yourself. Like there should be effects somewhere in here that forces you to take battle shock checks on yourself. And like, you know, maybe some of these even have like a no characteristic modifiers clause in them, so that you can be battle shocked and then just get full OC on units and stuff, right? So yeah, it doesn't feel very well designed, to be honest. It feels like they came up with the Battle Shock Matters theme and was like, oh, what a cool thing, and then didn't really actually create like an infrastructure around it. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, oh well. Sad to be an Unforgiven Task Force, I guess. Is this a sign for all new supplement codexes? Yeah, I would. That's what I would expect for sure. It's three detachments, right? It's 2 new detachments, but it's 3 total. And a couple data sheets, and I think that's fine. Like, you are still a Space Marine army, so the rules haven't changed, where you still have access to all the Space Marine detachments. So if you don't like these detachments, you can just play regular Space Marines with Dark Angels models still. So that is what I would expect from supplements, which I think is fair. I think that anything you get out of a supplement is gravy on the codex you're already playing. And so it's just making you better than a vanilla army, basically. Like if you were to choose a chapter keyword that wasn't one of the ones that has all the cool characters, then Dark Angels would be strictly better because they have more options. So whether or not like the supplements like, you know, break a faction or whatever it's probably good that they err on the side of things being not quite as exciting, because you're already getting a bunch of additional content. You hope that content is good and interesting and playable though, and some of it's not here, which is fair. Ugh. Can I forgive that task force? I was at one point, but I now can't, and it remains not forgiven. ever since that. A strategy where the unit overexerts itself for a bonus and gets battle shocked? Right? Kelly, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. Or even an ability. Like, that should be part of the detachment ability. Imagine if there was a detachment ability where you'd be like, at the start of your command phase, like, units in the army, if they're battle shocked, go to OC1. At the start of your command phase, the unit can choose to, I don't know, unforgive itself. If you do so, it becomes battle shocked. So it changes your OC before you go to scoring. So you don't want to do it if it flips your OC for holding objectives, but you do want to do it in some situations, and you get +1 to hit, or +1 to wound, or reroll ones to hit and wound or something for the remainder of the turn. Right? That would be cool, and then everything kind of comes together. So like situationally, you can choose to like burn yourself out and make your OC worse for the bonus of doing something. I don't know. It is what it is. Play Chaos Knights, Battle Shock manage for the world. Yeah, the difference is that you don't, like, Chaos Knights care about Battle Shocking the opponent, which is, that's fine. Because they have a bunch of outlets to do so. The problem with the Unforgiving Task Force is that it Battle Shocks itself, but it doesn't have any way to make you take Battle Shock checks. So unless your opponent has has their own Battle Shock abilities, where you're playing Tyranids or you're playing Chaos Knights, or you have Infernus Marines or one of those little things, you're just hoping that you get reduced below half strength, and then your units suck anyway because half of them are dead. So you're like, great, this is an ability I'll never use. Pretty silly. Abilities where you can gain a buff but risk battle shocking yourself should be generic to the entire game. I don't know about that. I do think that it's like a cool design space and they should be used more often for sure. Are enhancements to have a bearers unit always be battle shock would be cool? Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. All right, let's talk about some Terminators. So Deathwing Knights, I think everybody's kind of seen the data sheet here, and it's a sort of a disaster, to be honest. Apparently, according to the battle report, they went dramatically up in points, which seems bad, because they also went dramatically down in power level. They have a Watcher in the Dark. So the big benefit that they got was they got a Teleport Homer. They previously didn't have that. They just had the Watcher in the Dark. But now you get to put the little token anywhere on the battlefield, and then you can Rapid Ingress for free if you stand next to it, which is cool. You also get the Watcher as normal. I'm not sure I'm going to sit down. That's a little loud. I believe that sounds better. You get the Watcher in the Dark, which it looks like this is very grainy, but it's still the 4+ fail no pain against mortal wounds. I wish it had a clause for devastating in there. It feels like that's a missed opportunity, but it is what it is. And then they're still -1 damage because of Inner Circle. So they go to 4 wounds because they have a Storm Shield. They have a 4+ invulnerable save because they're a Terminator. Those are all the same, and then their weapons got like sort of massively nerfed. So looking at the old data sheet, apologize if this is traumatic for anyone who really liked their Deathwing Knights. So the old data sheet, it's now the Great Weapon of the Unforgiven instead of the Flail of the Unforgiven. That is exactly the same. Looks like, yeah, sustained 1, devastating, 6/2/2 for 5 attacks. You can swap it for a relic weapon, which seems way worse, but you get an extra strength and lethal hits. Oh, you get an extra attack, I guess, too. So it's almost certainly much worse, but at least you get an extra attack out of it. And lethal, which is fine. And then the Mace of Absolution, which was the standard weapon on the regular guys, went from 3 damage down to 2 damage. Which is super duper sad. So that's unfortunate, and I think that's basically the only change. You can now take a power weapon, which is +1 attack and +1 AP for -1 damage. Which is fine. And assuming that you can put the Strike Master in the unit, can you get lethal from them? Nope. I guess we don't know. The stuff that's not in the leaks here might still be in the Codex. We just don't quite know yet. I'm just looking at the old data sheets. Oh shit! What have I done here? Okay. Yeah, so you could get lethal, which means having the extra attacks might be nice because they're situationally because their damage is worse, but you know, we'll see. And you get +1 to hit and +1 to wound against enemies below half strength. Whoa, what a time! +1 to hit on a unit that hits on 2's base is like kind of funny. Yeah, so ultimately, very sad change for these guys. I think we were discussing it in the Discord, I think, a little bit. Some people were like, well, this is an unplayable datasheet now, and I don't think that's quite the case. 4 attacks to strength 6, EP 1, 2 damage is a bad melee profile, but it's not like an unplayable melee profile, especially if you stick them in Gladius Task Force and you can source the +1 AP from Honor the Chapter still. You know, you also can get +1 to wound from if you play the Terminator detachment. You know, there's some places where you can source damage buffs. The issue, I think, is that what they wanted this unit to be is like a super tank, where it has these really good defensive stats, right? 4 wounds, -1 damage is like a really, really good profile, and a 2+ save and a 4+ vulnerable save. They're super hard to kill, but they're not impossible to kill. But the problem is that they're really expensive, and so you want them to be is really efficient wounds, and they're like 55 points a model now or whatever, which feels too many points for me. I think if they were like a side grade from a regular Terminator, you would see them a lot, right? You would be like, oh, that's actually fine. But the problem is that they're dramatically more expensive and hit like, you know, maybe equal to, but most of the time less hard than a Power Fist in melee. Which feels like a problem. The Teleport Homer is still really good. Especially for a melee unit like this. But they are restricted to 5 models now instead of 10. So it's not quite as efficient as it could be. Because a lot of time you are rapid ingressing them anyway. So this feels like a unit that's probably not going to see play when the index comes out or the supplement comes out. But I bet like 6 months to a year down the road, they're going to points cut it dramatically, and I think it's going to be good again. That's my prediction for this unit. Because I do think that they were probably too jack of all trades in the index. Like the downside was their armor penetration, but they had really good damage output in melee. They had like a solid melee profile, and were hard to kill. And as long as, you know, if you're just playing in Gladius Task Force, which literally they could advance and charge, they could sometimes fall back and charge. They got +1 AP, +1 to wound. They got all of their weaknesses fixed in that detachment. They were probably too good. But they... I think they wanted to focus them a little bit more, and I just think the points value is not right for them. The Strike Master is gone, chat? And Deathwing Command Squad's gone? Really? That's a... What? That's just a model, though. Where did he go? Did they discontinue the model? Is he like a captain now? That's wild. Confirmed by the guys with the Codex. Deathwing Command Squad gone too? Oh my god. Okay. Is there a Deathwing Terminator datasheet? Guess do I have it in the leak here? No. But there is a There is a new Terminator kit, right, that has the plasma cannon in it. So there must be a new datasheet for them, right? Unless I'm missing something. Unless can generic Terminators take plasma cannons? They can't, right? I bet it's going to be a normal Terminator that just has a plasma cannon on it, though. I don't think it's going to have any specific mechanics. Where did Terminator at? Terminator Squad. Yeah, they don't have an option for a plasma cannon. $58 points per model. Yeah, that's insane. Like, you tell me you get, your 38 points a model for that, or 40 points a model or whatever for that data sheet. Like, oh sure, all right, that seems fine. They're like a solid tank, and they'll fight like light infantry are super good. Not for 60 points though. That's insanity. That's too silly. He never had a proper model? What? What is the one on the thing? I thought he was a guy. I thought he was one of the little blister packs. There is a Deathwing data sheet. Oh, did I just miss it? Maybe I just missed it when I was downloading these. Oh yeah, there's new ones. Okay. Let me get them on here real quick. Ordice, thank you for posting those, by the way, so that we can look at them. So there is a Deathwing Terminator squad. Oh, and there is the Ravenwing Command Squad. Okay, so let's look at the Ravenwing Command Squad. Because we were trying to figure out what was going on with these guys for the Ravenwing detachment. Because the Ravenwing detachment does seem really good. So they attach to Outriders and Ravenwing Black Knights. They have an Arthesium. You can return one destroyed model, excluding Invader ATVs. No! No! They did us dirty, chat. How dare they? Terrible. Yeah, you get +1 objective control, and you get +1 to advance and charge. Let's fucking go, dude. Because we're advancing and charging all day with this unit. Because we're going to put the enhancement on them. It makes them go fast. So they are basically move 14 at that point. Oof, that's good. Ravenwing seems super pushed. They have a mastercrafted power weapon. So I guess the precision... the precision upgrade is supposed to go on this guy for the Ravenwing detachment. Because they don't have precision baked in, even though they're a chapter champion. Okay. It's a little funky. How many models in it? Just 3. So you get a 9-man unit. And it doesn't look like they have any co-leader abilities. So they can't attach alongside a chaplain, which is a little sad. +1 to advance and charge, and advancing and charging is good, though. I feel like if you could make Ravenwing Death Stars, we would be kind of like talking a lot. But 18 plasma talon shots is pretty solid. And we get like a solid melee profile. I wish their base melee attacks were 2 damage. I think we would be pretty excited about them. Like, they're fine in melee, but they're not very good. And they're OC 3 each, which is cool. No Invader ATVs coming back, though. Very sad. I wish they had an offensive buff. That's what they're missing. They're very fast, but they don't hit very hard. If you could buff like the million attacks that Outriders get, then I feel like we would be kind of talking. But it feels like Black Knights are just better at fighting than Outriders, right? Because Outriders are just kind of mediocre. And the Black Knights are +1 strength and +1 AP over them, even though they drop an attack. Or 2 attacks. 1 attack, 2 attacks. How many attacks do the Outriders have? They have 5? They used to have like 6, right? Because they got +2 on the charge. Yeah, they awkwardly have 5. Okay. Or awkwardly have 4. Yeah, so you trade 1 attack for +1 strength and AP, which is probably just strictly better. He also doesn't, his +1 to advance doesn't actually combo with Outriders because they don't roll make advance rolls. It's funny. It is legal to have 6 Outriders +1 ATV, but you can't repair the ATV with the Apothecary. That was what I was saying. Which is the cool tech that people were excited about. So in that case, like if this guy is in with an Outrider squad, they are probably you are probably incentivized to take damage on the Outriders first, and then kill them so you can regenerate them later. Which is weird, because normally I think you would want to be sinking attacks into the invaders. But I think that there's still place for Outriders in this detachment, because I do think that the Chaplain brick with the Outriders is good, especially because they can advance and shoot. So you can go 18 and still shoot, which is actually gets them in range to get the 12-inch buff, the 12-inch range devastating wounds buff. Funny how Ravenwing is the best, but they got no new models. Yeah, I don't know if I would like. I don't know if I would say it's a conspiracy theory. I think Ravenwing is like sort of consistently the best in my experience out of Dark Angels, because they always push the speed to the point that it's like kind of silly, right? And I think that's sort of what this detachment is doing. They're just like ludicrously fast and have insane maneuverability. It's gonna be a bunch of fast noodles. Yeah, you gotta back it up with good damage output for sure. Like, I think that the actual Ravenwing units, and it's probably cost dependent too, right? If Black Knights end up being like 50 points a model, you're gonna be like, all right, I'll leave it at home. But it feels like the actual Ravenwing models in the army are like a delaying tactic, right? They like kill all your opponent's easy scoring, and then they just sink into all their heavy hitters and just hold them in place, while your other stuff actually like kills them, right? Your like gladiators wander around, and your plasma inceptors blow people up and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's probably how that detachment's going to work out. I don't think it's like all Ravenwing units, because the Ravenwing units do feel, with a couple exceptions, do feel, kind of mediocre at attacking. Wouldn't play Outriders without the Chaplain. Yeah, outside of like maybe little 3-man squads to go do utility. Because advancing, I mean, you have to remember, right? Advancing and shooting lets you do actions, so they can move 18 inches in this detachment, and shoot their gun, and like do actions, and then lock objectives, and then go into strategic reserve. They're like Space Marine scouts in this detachment, which is really cool. So I would take little 3-mans, but I wouldn't take like the big unit with the invader and all that stuff. Definitely. All right, let's talk about the other stuff. So Deathwing Terminators. This is not zooming again. Why are you like this? I want to be able to see all the stats. Just fix. Close my app down again. And restart it. This is so weird. Okay. I don't know why it wasn't doing that. All right, Deathwing Terminator squad. This looks like kind of this is sort of miserable. It looks like it is simply a regular Terminator squad that gets a Watcher in the dark and can take a plasma cannon. It's not even a good plasma cannon. It's a D3 shot, 2 damage. Ugh. I love how. Oh, I don't love it. I think it's silly, but like just how like power crept like the OG first company stuff is, right? This is stuff from like, you know, Rogue Trader, like Terminator armor, Land Raiders, all that stuff. The classic Land Raider, they did do a lot in 10th edition to make the Godhammer las cannons good, and they're definitely not bad. But when you compare them to like the you know, the efficiency of like a Lancer or something, they're a little silly looking. Like the new Primaris units are very focused in their role, and I think that makes for better units, generally speaking, versus the Land Raider trying to do everything at once. And the same thing with the classic Terminators, where they're like, guys, I have 3 2-damage Power Fist attacks. And then like he looks over at an Aggressor Squad, and the Aggressor Squad is like, are they twin linked? And you're like, no. You know, oh, can you attach Marni's Calgar and advance in charge? And they're like, no. so what do you do? And then they're like, oh, I got a Stormbolter, though. Can shoot 4 times. And the aggressors are like, okay, man, whatever you say. And that's sort of what it feels like here. Like, oh, I have a Plasma Cannon. And you're like, all right. So you get D3 2-damage shots. What a time to be alive. It feels like they could have pumped the power level of Terminators in 10th edition, and I think it would have been okay. Like, they made them harder to kill, which is good, right? They improved their invulnerable save, they improved their toughness. But they could have given them an extra attack in melee and, like, I don't know. Their Stormbolters are AP1 or something. Like, just give us something here. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know if I rate this unit particularly highly. I think standard shooty Terminators are not super exciting. Ravenwing aircraft. These look kind of the same as they were. Let's just verify. The Dark Talon has the Stasis Bomb, which now has a clause that says you can only use this ability once per battle, but it does say that. It does already say once per battle, so that's a weird clause to have. But I guess, you know, we're being thorough. You automatically deal D3 mortal wounds, and you can stop people from advancing or falling back. Ugh. It's okay, I guess. Remain stationary is pretty good. And then the Rift Cannon is D3 plus 1 blast. Devastating wounds? Yeah, so I don't think anything changed on this guy. The other guy, the Nephilim Hunter, is also the same. You get -1 to be hit, you get -1 to be wounded by flyers, and the weapons are all identical. Yeah. Alright. I mean, I think proof is in the points for sure. Although, like Storm Talons and stuff get the Ravenwing keyword if they're playing the Ravenwing detachment. So, you can play aircraft because they're flying vehicles, and you get all the detachment benefits, which is kind of cool. Although a lot of your stuff is mounted keyword anyway, so I don't know if it matters that much. GW's hacking me to prevent breaches, yeah. For sure. 10 men can take 2 plasma cannons, so it's 2d3, 2 damage shots. Let's go. And they blast, so it might be more. Whoa, let's go. All the changes have been nerfs. I think that is the case. Outside, like the exciting stuff is the new detachments for sure. But I think all the datasheet changes so far have been downgrades, except for the Ravenwing Command Squad, right? I think it's a totally different unit, but you can now attach it into characters. Yeah, these used to not attach into characters, right? It was just a thing that another character would attach to. So like this is a totally different unit, and I think it's Oh, I guess you used to also take Ravenwing Knights with it. So, like, I would say it's probably a side grade. Like, you can make a bigger squad of it now, but you don't get other characters inside the squad. So it's like, you know, I don't know. You win some, you lose some, I guess. But it being a character also means that it gets enhancements, and there's some really good enhancements. I don't know. I think the Ravenwing detachment's just really good, probably. Oh, yeah, you're right, chat. That's what the clarification of the stasis bomb means. Yeah, it means that you can't bomb multiple units. I guess that's probably fine. So there's no, like, degenerate list where it's, like, 3 Dark Talons and they bomb 3 units, and then you just, like, hope to roll the stationary and lock your opponent's entire army in their deployment zone or something. Like, it's a negative play experience thing, I guess. That is what the difference is. Because this says once per turn instead of once per battle. Once per turn, 1 model from your army instead of once per battle. This model can do a thing. Can a Plasmon Terminator be worthwhile in any way compared to having Cyclone and keeping a Stormbolter? Not really, unless the Plasma Cannon had buffed the stats. Like, if that Plasma Cannon was 3 shots, 3 damage, I think we would be talking. But the fact that it's D3 shots, 2 damage is, like, kind of silly. Can we see Lionel Johnson? Yep. Yeah, so let's dive into the classic characters. The original characters now. So this is New Belial. Yeah, he's cut off, but it says it at the bottom. He gives you precision on critical hits, which is just like a bad ability and is annoying to resolve. Because then you have to take your critical hits out, even if they're statistically the same as your other dice, and then roll them separately. It's like a whole thing. I don't know why. I don't know why we have that. It's good in melee. Precision on their melee attacks is probably fine, but it's really annoying on their range attacks. You probably just forget he has it, honestly. He is precise on all his attacks, which is cool. Each time a melee attack is allocated to him after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks, roll 1d6. For each 4+, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound. That's solid. He's probably good for 3 mortal wounds. Maybe more if he makes all his armor saves. Not a good ability, though. You're probably more excited to take a Terminator Captain, honestly. Or almost any of the Terminator characters. You get that new champion with a shield. That guy rules. That guy's super cool. Sorry, Belial. Get a better leadership ability, I guess. Ezekiel forces enemies to take battle shock checks within 18. That's pretty good. Well, I mean, it's fine. I guess it's not that exciting. It can prevent them from using defensive strats, which is good. And you get a 4+ fan open against psychic attacks. This is, I guess it's also automatic, right? They have to roll, but you don't have to, so there's no chance you kill yourself with it, which is nice. And then he has a mediocre precision gun, which is okay. And he's anti-chaos 2+ in melee, but only 4 attacks. Whatever, Ezekiel. I don't know if we're that excited about it. They love precision on these characters. All his ranged attacks and all of Belial's attacks have precision. I love that he has like a named mastercrafted pistol too, but his other attack isn't pistol. So as long as he's not in melee, he's only using one of the others. So he can never shoot his pistol 90% of the time. He'll just shoot his like devastating wound gun. Just give it his gun pistol. I feel like that would have helped a lot, because then he's really good if he gets stuck in a protracted combat, because he can shoot all his weapons. It's not even that like big of a change. Yeah, I'm done zooming again, apparently. Asmodai has a sweep profile, which is cool. AP2 1 damage is strength 5. It's like not actually that bad of a profile, or 5 attacks at 2 damage. You can reroll hit rolls in melee, but you don't get the +1 to wound, which is a little bit sad. Start of the fight phase, each enemy character takes a battle shock check. if you kill a character with a melee attack, you get 1 CP. That's mediocre at best. Yeah, I don't know. And then Azrael gives sustained hits and a 1 CP, and also a 4+ invulnerable save and feel no pain. Yeah. So Azrael didn't change at all. It doesn't look like. We just have the other characters remaining kind of bad. Let's open up Lionel Johnson over here. I know a lot of people have been upset about him getting nerfed. What has changed exactly on his data sheet? So his attacks are the same. Looks like he's sustained 1. Oh no, he's only 1 damage on the sweep now. That's the change. Is that like super relevant though? Because I feel like there's a vast majority of the time you're swinging with the lethal hit, 4 damage AP4 weapon. Like I guess he turbo nuked medium infantry, and now he only mostly nukes medium infantry. He doesn't kill 10 Space Marines on a swing. He kills 8. Like okay. Yeah, I don't. That's unfortunate, but not quite as not like the end of the world. He's got 2 pistol attacks, 6 total shots. Yeah, AP1 2 damage and AP3 2 damage. All good. 6 total shots is. Oh no, but you only choose 1 profile. Yeah, so he'll only shoot 4 times or 2 times, which is too bad. So Emperor's Shield reflects mortal wounds. Oh, he does not -1 to wound anymore. It just reflects mortal wounds on a 6. Yeah, that's unfortunate. And then his Primarch abilities. He has the one where you gain CP when enemy targets their stuff with stratagems, and they force battle shock checks. That one's pretty good. That's like an annoying control effect for sure. If you haven't played against that, it seems really bad, but then like the times that it hurts you, it's like, holy shit. The 1 CP gain is like pretty good. It keeps them on par with tacticals, but Azrael's in the faction anyway, and you're probably taking that dude because he rules. Martial Exemplar, you get +1 to hit within 6 inches, and a 4+ feel no pain against mortal wounds, which is fine. But not good because it doesn't work on devastating anymore. So yeah, so he lost 1 damage on his melee attack, on his sweep attack, and he lost his -1 to wound. If he gets a commensurate drop in points, I think that's probably fine, right? Because I feel like the big benefit of Lionel Johnson was always like his stab profile, because he was just fights first. He was like fights first, and he would kill most of the things in the game that touched him. And I guess now he's slightly less tanky. But if your opponent's like really concentrating to kill him, they're gonna kill him regardless. So I don't know. I guess like a Dark Angels player could probably tell me how important the -1 to wound was. Like I guess at a T9 profile, it's a big deal. But yeah, if we see a points drop on him, I think it's probably fine. But I mean, who knows? He might go up in points because like the supplement's been weird so far. Yeah, we just skipped past Azrael. He's exactly the same as he was in the index. Remember when pinning was a rule? I do remember when pinning was a rule. That was a cool rule. I always liked the go to ground mechanic because you got to choose to pin yourself. That was always fun to get an invuln save. And there were situations where you're just like, oh, it's strictly better than dying, so here we go. Yeah, we'll have to see points in Lionel Johnson. He still seems like perfectly playable to me, but again, like if his points don't drop at all, I would be sad about it for sure. But if he's like less of a centerpiece unit and he's just a big dude who fights good, like that's probably still fine. So also, he retains his cool deep strike, which is kind of sweet. You just teleport that dude into annoying places with Rapid Ingress. Feels nice. Oh, so the other thing is, speaking of looking at his datasheet here, the other thing we haven't looked at is Inner Circle Champions, which I'm kind of excited about. Becoming slightly less excited by looking at them. So it's 3 to 6, so you can take them in units of 6, kind of like Blade Guard veterans. They're 4 2 damage attacks each, or they can go to 1 damage to get sustained 2, but they're only AP 1. What is this faction in low AP values? I don't get it. So they have the same offensive profile. They're -1 to hit, I guess, although they get lethals, so it's kind of a side grade compared to Deathwing Knights. They're exactly the same, except they trade +1 weapon skill for lethal hits. The weapon skill is probably better, but it's not like a total wash. But then they can also get to the sweet sustained effect, which is sweet. They're -1 to hit while being led. You don't have to lead them, unlike company heroes. And they are +1 to hit against characters. Oh, I wish they were 2+ weapon skill and that effect was +1 to wound. Then this unit would be like super sick. These seem okay. As long as they're costed appropriately. Like, that melee profile is alright. -1 to hit permanently isn't a great effect. It's not as good as the -1 to wound on the company heroes, but it's something. And they are basically just like the veteran equivalent, right? They're like a chosen equivalent. So like you can kind of hope that they're like 22, 21, 22 points a model. In which case, like little 130 point units of these guys running around feels kind of alright. Especially if you're in Gladius Task Force or something and you can source +1 to wound on them too. And lethal hits is good with against big targets if you have Oath of Omen active on them too. Yeah, I don't dislike Inner Circle Champions. Oh, Jesus Christ, this fucking thing. I just can't zoom anymore. Can I just use the zoom button? No, it just stops me from zooming entirely. I don't understand computers, chat. How do they work? Why do they do random things? Alright, we'll just open up an identical document now. I can zoom. I don't get it. $105 points for 3? That's too expensive. That can't be right. There's no way these guys are more expensive than company heroes. Like, that's the direct comparison, right? What's the cost? Well, how many points is a Blade Guard veteran? Because these guys are just different Blade Guard veterans, right? Like, that's the comparison. They're higher strength and have they don't get the cool reroll thing. I guess they also don't have an invulnerable save, which is problematic. Why even wear these big braziers if it doesn't give you a 4+ invulnerable save? So that, yeah, they're like, their profile's like a side grade from Blade Guard veterans. They're higher strength but lower AP, and they have lethal hits, which is nice. They get +1 to hit situationally instead of like the reroll thing that Blade Guard veterans get. And Blade Guard veterans are only 30 points a model. And have a gun. And even then, Blade Guard veterans are probably too expensive. Yeah, there's no way that they're 35 points a model. There's no way that this unit is more expensive than Blade Guard veterans. It's like they're like a slight downgrade from Blade Guard veterans, like at best, I think. Because that invulnerable save is so big. You would expect them to be significantly cheaper. Like 25 is the best I'll do. 25 points per model. Yeah, I also wonder if a lot of the points values are, I guess, like if we're talking about points values from the Codex, I would wait till the next field manual comes out, because we have seen sometimes that the points values in the field manual are just straight up different than the ones in the Codex, right? So it could be that they're like you know, we're doing it different. With Azrael, Inner Circle champions can get sustained 1 and lethal. Yeah, that is pretty good. And he does give them an invuln save. Does he give them an invuln save all the time, or is it only shooting? 4+ invulnerable save. All right. Yeah, I feel like that's the intended combo, right? Because you can you can oath your target, just fully fish on the Inner Circle champion swings. So you get sustained lethal on the greatsword attacks. And unfortunately, he doesn't combo with the sweep attacks, but like, whatever. The times you're swinging the sweep attacks, you don't really care anyway, I think. And then he's also you're -1 to hit and have an invuln save. I feel like that's where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be with 6 of these guys. And that unit, like, I mean, that hits kind of hard, honestly. You've got 30 attacks at like, I mean, I guess their AP is not great, but 2 damage at least. You can also put, I guess, like, you don't get too much for putting a lieutenant in there. Is there anything else you can double attach? There's not, right? It's just lieutenants. Can you double attach ancients? Can you make them OC3? You can. It's kind of cool. Is there a unit here? Can we build our own little, like, bricky unit? Yeah, the Blade Guards have the same number of attacks. They just trade lethal hits and strength for an extra AP, basically. And then they, like, these guys get situational hit +1 to hit. The Blade Guard gets situational, like, hit rerolls. The melee attacks feel like a side grade. The downgrade is the 4+ invulnerable save. And I feel like Blade Guard veterans pay, like, 6 points a model for that, at least, right? Like, otherwise they feel like the same unit. Like... so I feel like Inner Circle champions should be whatever Blade Guard veterans are, minus like 5 points. And then you'd probably be okay. Oh, the Apothecary can double attach. Ooh, so you can bring them back to life? That's something. That's certainly a unit. There's a unit in here somewhere. But the points have to be right? Like, I feel like that's the case for all this stuff. If they wildly overcost them, it's going to be super sad. But, like, I think that there's a universe in some of these. That's like probably okay. Like, you could put chaplains in them for +1 to wound. I don't know if that's particularly exciting. Yeah, it doesn't... Apothecary can't attach to Blade Guard. Yeah, it doesn't... For some reason, these don't care what attaches to Blade Guard veterans. These care what attaches to Stern Guard veterans. So, whatever attaches into Stern Guards can do it. Which I assume Apothecaries can. Maybe they can't. They sure can. Yep. Their Apothecaries are definitely can. I kind of like, honestly, I kind of like lieutenants attaching to just give the, like, he doesn't do anything for the unit, but he adds another like 4 power fist attacks, and he gives Azrael lethal hits as well. So the entire unit is lethal and sustain. But it definitely feels like it's a little bit of lost efficiency. See, but you can't double attach Judiciaries. That would be like the real sauce right there, I feel like. Because them all like also strikes first, which feels pretty good. I don't know. There's definitely a place for them. Inner Circle champions seem totally fine. They're good monies for the company of hero champion. I mean, I guess so. You could just replace the champion in the company hero squad if you're playing Dark Angels. That's definitely fair. All right, have we talked about all the units yet? Let's just take a quick gander. We talked about Johnson. We talked about Knights. Yeah, I wonder if like this must be different file types or something. Because like some of them, oh, and Lazarus, I guess. Let me just reopen Lazarus' stupid datasheet. Lazarus. Is he the same as he was in the other thing? I like the idea of Lazarus as a model because he's like such a toolbox, or he's like a tool in the shed, right? You get a 3+ feel no pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds, but only he himself, not his unit, which sucks. While he's leading unit, each time a model is destroyed by melee attack on a 4+, it fights. Yeah, but he's the same. He has not changed at all. I missed it when he used to give an aura of feel no pain against mortal wounds, because that felt like in situations where mortal wounds were a big part of the metagame, you could just take him. But now he's just, the fact that he buffs himself is like a little bit awkward. Anti-Psyker 2 is like that's a profile for sure. Against like big Psyker monsters like Chaos Demons and Tyranids and stuff. Anybody else that we have talked about? Talked about Sammy. We talked about these guys. They kind of sucked. Asmodai sucked, even though his model's cool. Inner Circle Champions look sweet. We talked about all the detachments. Super psyched about that Ravenwing detachment. I think it's gonna be great. I think there's gonna be like some good player out there is gonna make that absolutely hum. Yeah, I think we've talked about everything, Chip. That's all we got so far. But yeah, I do wonder for the people who are sort of underhyped about it, if this is sort of the, I guess like, it's the downside of having Index Hammer beforehand, right? Because we already got used to a set of profiles, and then GW like wants to change them, and we don't want to see the change. To be fair, it is unfortunate that they wouldn't keep the original profiles and just have us play with them if they like were gonna change stuff. Like I'm not sure I entirely understand the need to change 3 damage down to 2 damage like everywhere. Like it feels like very much like -1 damage the release, right? Where it's like, oh, just everybody gets slightly worse at hitting people. You're like, all right, I don't really understand. Are there any buffs? Yeah, I mean, they're like, to the existing data sheets, not really. The only one you could call a buff is the Ravenwing Command Squad, because it's basically a re-released datasheet, and it's totally different than the previous datasheet, which I think is cool. And then the new detachments are definitely like new content, at least. I don't know if the Deathwing detachment is particularly playable. I think that like a situational +1 to wound is really cool. I think it would have been good. It definitely would have been something to look at if you could benefit from the +1 to wound on not simply infantry models. This is so small, and I can't zoom on it. Whatever. The problem is that it's infantry only for the Vow, and I feel like if it was all Deathwing units, because it would affect your Dreadnoughts and stuff, I think that like suddenly we're talking. But most of this stuff specifies Deathwing infantry. Almost all of it specifies Deathwing infantry. Which is just kind of, I think, a missed opportunity. Like, you could make the Land Raider detachment, right? Where you're like, your Land Raider Redeemers get +1 to wound against something on, like, the objective you pick. Like, whoa, okay. Sick. All right, let's go. But no, they didn't want to do that. Like, a little bit of a missed opportunity with this one. Ravenwing one seems good, though. I like the Ravenwing one. Yeah, it was interesting. I think like the place to that they should like maybe that they could have put more design time into is the characters, because they re-released all these character models and then released the same datasheet for them, or what I assume is the same datasheet. Also, like, why is Asmodai on like a 60 mil base and he's like a T4 4 wounds? Like, you're gonna look at that guy and be like, oh man, he looks tough to kill. I bet he's like a 2+ armor, 4+ invulnerable, 6 wound idiot, and you're like, no, he's just a chaplain. And you're like, oh, okay. But his model's like enormous. He's got like the Pyrovore complex, right? Like the Pyrovore effect, where he's like this big imposing guy, but he's just a little baby. I'm just a little baby. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, why would you keep the exact same mechanics for these models that aren't being played? Like, yeah, he. I guess he's a little bit better. His melee profile got +1 AP and a sweep attack. Oh, except he lost his extra attacks, so he doesn't even really have a sweep attack. He like side graded in melee, I guess. Like, if he's hitting infantry, he's slightly better at it. But if he's hitting with his 2 damage swing, he doesn't get his extra attacks on top. So, yeah, I don't know, chat. I don't know why they wouldn't redesign this character and make him do a different thing. And the same with Belial. Belial seems like totally unplayable. His leadership ability is super trash. Which is like whatever, but if you're playing Deathwing, you want to be able to take the Deathwing guy. Like, if all these characters felt like re-releases, I think people would be happy about it. But the fact that they just took data sheets out of the Codex and then kept the characters that are iconic but are like super bad is unfortunate. Blah. Azrael is still dope. Yeah, Azrael definitely super good. I agree with that for sure. 10th edition looking very half-assed. I don't know about that. This Codex definitely feels like a 4 p.m. on a Friday kind of Codex or supplement. They like find replaced 3 damage with 2 damage and then like hit print. But I would say on the whole the edition. I wouldn't say that about the edition. Is somebody just starting out with the Dark Angels Combat Patrol? Is there anything Dark Angels exclusive you should pay attention to? I mean, at this point, like, I would wait. I wouldn't say any of like this stuff is. I wouldn't pass judgment definitively until you see points values. I think the Inner Circle champions look cool. I think the Ravenwing stuff looks cool, and I think Azrael is still great. And to be fair, like, most of this stuff is just in support of a generic Space Marine list. So like, if your question is, should I get units that are good for Space Marines for my Dark Angels army? Like, yeah, sure, absolutely. Absolutely get that stuff. Depthness mechanic is coming out like Kings of Sterilized rules change in the Hunter cohort compared to this. I mean, I don't know if I would call the Adeptus Mechanicus release like a total triumph. But I think it's also kind of a false comparison, because the thing you have to keep in mind, like I just said, is that this is a Space Marine supplement. This is not a Codex, right? Like, we have to remember that if you play Space Marines, you can, in excess of rules available to any other faction in the game, choose to play Dark Angels and unlock these rules as well. And whether or not those rules are super good, having more units in your Codex gives you a larger toolbox and generally makes you like more powerful. So I think that I don't think the comparison to a full army Codex is particularly fair. I think that these are cool roles that people who like Dark Angels can play, and
and I think some of them are competitive. A lot of them aren't, and that's that's fine. If they're not competitive, you can take your green Space Marines and you can play them in a regular Gladius Task Force, or paint a green Gilliman and play Ultramarines. Like, that's fine. I think with the Divergent chapters, getting access to generic detachments means less motivation to make their own Codex balance or interesting. I agree with that for sure. But yeah, the fact that these are supplements and not individual factions in and of themselves means that there's probably less design space, like design time applied to them, which is probably why it looks kind of generic. No, well, you got to keep saying stuff for me to really like reiterate. That's how the chat works. don't go entirely silent. Gilliman has too much self-respect to be painted green. Dude, if I had a Gilliman, he'd be green, 100%. I kind of want a Gilliman. Like, I want to play Space Marines. I keep thinking about probably printing a Space Marine army. I don't know if I would buy them all. But I'd probably buy a Gilliman. Maybe I should just buy a Gilliman and paint him anyway, and then we can slowly construct a Space Marine army around him. But I like playing Space Marines. I think Space Marines rule. Unironically, a good faction right now. Am I overall happy with Ravenwing? I would say agnostic of points. Yeah, I think Ravenwing are going to be a reasonable competitive option. I don't think I don't think that they're the best thing in the Space Marine Super faction. But I do think that they're good. Why can't I zoom again? This is so annoying. Gotta restart this stupid. This is the last time I used the generic photo app. I'm gonna download something. This is a nightmare. I still can't zoom. I don't get it. I don't understand. That's so weird. It's like it takes whatever aspect ratio I'm at and then locks it in when I switch between pictures in the album. I don't know. But yes, I think that I'm not gonna say that Company of Hunters I think is the best detachment like in Space Marines. I do think it's a very like it can be competitive. I think that having like these like super fast, super maneuverable rush faction, like rush detachments that just like pin your opponent down and are really good at scoring secondaries is really strong, just generically. And that's what this detachment's going to be. It's missing like something to buff their damage, but Space Marine, like their base damage is probably good enough that as long as you're not trying to make your Ravenwing stuff like, murder everything, then you're probably okay. Because the Ravenwing stuff hits kind of like a noodle, but the rest of your army is going to pick up the slack. And to be fair, you could probably play this detachment in Gladius Task Force and be just fine anyway. Like, if you had most of the same Ravenwing models, I think they would be okay in Gladius Task Force. Because then you get Squad Tactics, and you get Onto the Chapter, and you get Assault Doctrine. And all those abilities are, like, have similar analogs in Company of Hunters. Hoping for basically the same rules with minor tweaks and mainly new detachments. Yeah, I definitely don't. I don't fault anyone for having that, for hoping for that. Like, just I don't think the rules as they stood were were overpowered or anything, and certainly not to the point that you couldn't change them with points costs. And to be fair, I think that's still the case, right? You just have to do the points values in the other direction now. Like, if you make everything cheap, then this faction's fine. But yeah, I definitely understand that it can take the wind out of your sails, for sure. Need to know what they were planning to increase Deathwing Knights to 290 while also nerfing them. Yeah. Yeah, it feels like a knee-jerk. Because they saw, maybe they saw everyone playing Deathwing Knights, and they're like, oh, 3 damage like is kind of silly. And it does feel like GW does this sometimes, right? Like where they over nerf by turning too many knobs, right? Because like Deathwing Knights in the current incarnation, right, before at 3 damage in their current points value, are a very good unit, and a lot of people play them in 10s. And they'll be like, oh, like I think we'll change the data sheet so they're not 3 damage anymore, because that feels like thematically inappropriate for an infantry carried melee weapon to be 3 damage is very rare, extremely rare. And it, like, not to mention that it's usually a character if it ever happens. So having it on an entire unit of guys is like, well, I don't know, maybe that's silly. So we'll take that off of them. We'll give them a 2 damage weapon. You're like, okay. And then there's like another team that writes the Unitorum field manual and are like, Deathwing Knights are getting played a lot. Let's increase their points value. And then both of those things happen at the same time, which feels like some happens sometimes when units get like wildly over nerfed. But again, my hope is, and maybe this is copium, my hope is that those are points values out of the supplement, like out of the back page of the supplement, which are a reference for people who have not downloaded the Unitorum field manual. And if the Unitorum field manual has a different points value, it will overwrite those. And given that we're probably going to get a new field manual within the next, 5 to 10 days? Hopefully it will be a different number. That's what I'm crossing my fingers on. If Lion is 200 points, maybe he's worth it. Oh, I think that man would be more than worth it at 200 points. That dude would be a windmill slam at 200. He'd be so good. Try to sell the sweet new models with absolutely ass rules. Yeah, it's always my it's like my favorite thing when people conspiracy theory that they're like, oh, Games Workshop just makes rules to sell models. Like they pump the rules of a model that they want to get rid of. And you're like, do they? Because when they release a new model, many times that model is very bad, and it takes them a couple iterations to make that model good again. I will say one thing that often happens is that models that are aesthetically very cool tend to be, I think it feels like they put less emphasis on making them strong. Whereas models that I think that they think that they'll have a tough time selling based on their appearance, they might make stronger on the tabletop. That if I were to conspiracy theorize, that would be mine. But I definitely don't think that they like just strictly make every new model good, because that's certainly not the case, as evidenced by the fact that that's what this index is, or this supplement is. Might get a Terminator Apothecary at some point. That would be very cool. I would love a Terminator Apothecary. Like Grey Knights used to have an Apothecary character that was totally separate from the other, from the rest of the unit. He was just a dude with a little aura ability. Them writing rules to buff new models is not a conspiracy. Well, they're doing a bang-up job with it today. If that is what they do, then they are very bad at their jobs. So their quota of Desolation Marines. I'm okay with the Desolation Marine nerf. I think that was fine. I wish that they... When they nerfed their unit size, I wish that they had given them a points break. But, like,
I think the unit would have been too ubiquitous if they hadn't done something to nerf the 10-man brick. Because anytime you played Gladius Task Force, like it felt very restrictive because your fire discipline combo was always in a Desolation Squad. Like there was never a build where you didn't take a 10-man Desolation Squad with fire discipline. And now that it's been nerfed, it feels like the faction opened up a lot more, and now you see like Terminator fire discipline squads and Aggressor fire discipline squads and Hellblaster fire discipline squads. Whereas it was just straight up the wrong decision to do that when you could take 10-man Desolations. I wish that Desolators were a little cheaper so that they were seen more often, but I think that that unit specifically is like in a fine place. Can deal with Eldar nerfs. I hope you can deal with Eldar nerfs because I apologize to Eldar players because I don't usually root for factions to get like nuked from orbit, but I sort of hope that happens. They've been too good for so long. It's been insane. And I think if they nerf all the stuff that's like good in the Codex right now, they're just gonna side grade and play a different archetype probably. It would be nice to see them like side to like move the focus to different units for sure, but I have a sneaking suspicion they're just gonna get dropped dropped like a rock. Yeah, I think the rules team and the model design team are totally separate for sure. I don't think that there's a conspiracy. I think there's like three teams of people. There's the people who make rules and balance the rules. There's the people who design the models, and there's the people who work on are on the production side and then the fulfillment side. And I think those three teams very rarely coordinate. So I don't think this is a conspiracy. I think that just occasionally some like the planets align and you get a situation where somebody's where it looks like they're coordinating in a funny way. All right, chat. Well, I think that is all we have to talk about the Dark Angels Codex with. So I think I'm going to go ahead and probably wrap up the stream there. If anybody has any last things they want to take a look at, then go ahead and throw them in chat. But otherwise, we will probably call that the end of the stream. Thanks, everyone, for coming in and hanging out. I'm glad we could talk about this while it was hot off the presses. I was just here editing a video when the leaks started dropping, so we're talking about those. I will be live over on Twitch over the course of the weekend. I don't have like a distinct time set yet, but we'll probably just be talking about LVO. So we'll do some LVO coverage. We'll talk about matchups that are happening, and we'll talk about and we'll do some sort of watch parties of the live streams. So if you're interested in LVO content, then please come hang out with me over on the Purple channel, twitch.tv/TacticalTortoise otherwise, I will probably be done jumping off. Internal balance is an issue with all of Warhammer. The game is too large to be able to balance every single unit against each other. It's just like, it's an impossible task, especially when you're considering there are new releases coming out. And I think that the goal of the design team and the development team is to get the game to a point where the factions are comparable to one another, which is a much easier task. Whereas like the cutting edge of each faction is roughly equivalent. Whether or not, how big that cutting edge is, I don't think that they're worried about it. Like if a faction has a single archetype that you can play, but that archetype is as good as anyone else's, then they don't care. Then they're fine with that. And it sucks, but I think in a game with hundreds and hundreds of data sheets, I think that's just how it has to be. So I think GW is going to stop sending books out if it keeps leaking. I don't. I mean, I don't know. I think I assume that this is from like a fulfillment center. Because this stuff, it comes out like next week, right? So I think that these are this is like production line stuff. I don't think that this is like some content creator leaking everything. The first team spends half their budget on skooma. Yeah, skooma. Yeah, for sure. Cheers, guys. All right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up there anyway. You don't see Imperial Primax in competitive list? Oh, you see Gilliman. Oh, you see that guy. He good. He a good doobie. Gilliman rules. Speaking from experience, Gilliman's an absolute chad. Just watch my Space Marine Captain's video. And Johnson you saw occasionally. I think Johnson was good in like very aggressive Dark Angels lists. Less so now. But I don't know. Maybe if he gets a points cost reduction, you'd see him. We'll see. Book comes out February 3rd. Okay, so 2 weeks. So I guess embargo lifts probably next week. Yeah, it might have been a reviewer, but I bet it's somebody in a warehouse somewhere. That would be my bet if I were to have be a betting man. All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me. I appreciate you all. You're amazing. Remember to keep it classy. Have happy wargaming, and I'll see you over on the Purple channel later this weekend. So cheers, everyone.